Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me on this episode of the Show About the Show podcast. I'm very excited today to be talking to former Major League pitcher Chris Hammond. Chris played for 7 different teams in his career, and he's got a lot of great stories to share. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Welcome, Chris.
Good to be here.
So, you were drafted in 1986 in the amateur draft. Can you talk about the draft process back then and what that was like?
Oh, it wasn't any process. I mean, I was like, it was the last year of the January draft, and I didn't make my grades in junior college, and I went home, sat there for 2 weeks, and Cincinnati Reds scout called me, and he goes, "Hey, I think we're thinking about drafting you," and I'm like, "Really?" And then he goes, "We're going to draft you as a pitcher." I go, "What?" I pitched one game in college. I was an outfielder. I DH'd and but during the getting ready for my junior college season, I threw a lot of bullpens. I worked with a guy who was in Double A with the Astros, and he had a buddy that was a Cincinnati Red scout, and he goes, "Hey, you need to come look at this guy." And he happened to be at that game, and I lost 1-0. I pitched 8 innings, and he goes, "Oh my goodness!" And the rest is history. So there was no draft process that I knew of because it was the last year of the January draft, and after that year they did away with it. And lucky for me, I was there.
Can you talk about kind of the once you did get drafted, who you called and kind of the process of getting to the minor leagues with Cincinnati?
Well, it was just, I mean, it was like a whirlwind. I mean, as soon as I got drafted, it was like I left like probably a week later, went down to Sarasota in extended spring training. And I mean, just being around, I mean, they gave me $500 to sign. So,
Sure.
I mean, I was hitting the dirt running, and just
Right.
being around all the top round draft picks and the second round draft picks and this guy, and they promised to me this, and I'm going to get called up. And I'm thinking, I might as well get in my car and head on back home. I don't have a chance. But I told myself, I go, they're not going to send me home because I didn't outwork everybody here,
Right.
and that was my game plan. And within 2 weeks after the season started, I got called up to Single A, and everybody else is going, why not me? And I go, results mean a lot. So that was my game plan all along, and it worked out.
And so let's talk about your minor league career a little. You spent a little less than 4 seasons there. You were drafted like we said in 1986. You made your major league debut in 1990 in July. Can you talk about that period being in the minor leagues and what that did for you both as a pitcher and ball player, but also learning how to be a professional baseball player?
Yeah, I mean, when I look back at my minor league years, that was probably the most fun years of my life because I was getting paid to play baseball, and I had no, my goals wasn't, or my dreams or anything wasn't, I was going to make it to the major leagues. I was going to give it everything I had, have fun doing it for the years that I was going to do it. And that's what I did. I had fun, gave it everything I had. And each year I got called up before all those top round draft picks. And I mean, and the results that I had, I mean, it was amazing. But moving from minor leagues to the major leagues, I mean, the fun you throw out the window. Now
Right.
you're playing in front of 30 to 50,000 people every night. And if you have a bad game, you're going to be on Sports Center. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be on Sports Center, especially as
Right.
a pitcher.
Right.
So it was a huge um, not like a downer. I mean, a complete opposite, but there was no fun at all for the first few years.
Yeah, you talked about how you kind of had been called up ahead of those higher round guys. Can you talk about why you think that happened or what you did that made that happen?
Results. I mean, the
Yeah,
years that I had in today's generation in Double A, I think my Double A season was really the season that kind of pushed me forward, and I'm thinking, gosh, I'm pretty good. I mean, I was I think I was 18-5 with a 1.68 ERA after the season, and we won the championship. And I mean, it was just flat amazing. And somebody's like, "Man, you might get called up." I'm thinking, "Uh oh." And that's really what really started my focus. I'm thinking, man, now I got to take this serious. I'm getting close. And even when I was in AAA, I started the year off 10-1 with like a 2 ERA, and my manager said, "Hey, the all the high brass for the Reds are going to come watch you pitch tonight, and we're pitching. I'm pitching against the Yankees with Deion Sanders. He was there, and I pitched a 1-0 shutout." And after that game, my manager goes, "Hey, I need to talk to you after the game," and come back to my room. And I'm thinking, man, what did I do? And he goes, "You just got called up to the big leagues." I'm thinking, oh, I mean, I mean, you can try to explain to somebody what that feeling is. I mean, it's more nervous than excitement
right, right.
because like I said, you can throw the fun out the window because it ain't fun. That feeling right
Right.
there is not fun walking into a major league clubhouse, especially the Cincinnati Reds when they were when they won. They were on the journey to win the World Series that year. They were in first place, and I'm coming in a 25-year-old. I mean, I was like scared to death.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on that. You made your debut July 16th, 1990 against the Montreal Expos, actually, and that was middle of the way through the season. The Reds were 20 some games above 500. You mentioned they're on their way to the World Series, and you had the Nasty Boys and Dibble and Larkin, and you also had Norm Charlton and guys like that. Can you talk when you walked into that clubhouse for the first time? Did you kind of have a sense, just based on the way the guys carried themselves and the way the energy was, that that was going to be the end result in the season, or were you just focused on getting there and doing your job?
Well, I mean, my first focus was on. I mean, I got to do what I can do. I mean,
Right.
I mean, to stay in the big leagues, you can't have bad game, good game, bad game, good game.
Right.
And I mean, and that was just my goal throughout my whole career is to be consistent with getting the job done. And I mean, it's hard because Lou Pinella um, back then he was not he didn't give you much room, and if you did mess up, he let you know. I mean, it was hard, and I
Right.
mean, but I really grew to hate Lou Pinella. I mean, and he was that bad. I mean, seeing him how he treated Paul O'Neill, and he really treated everybody. And it was kind of like I mean, he had a whip in the bullpen. I mean, in the dugout, and I'm thinking, gosh. I mean, and that's really the main reason that I really didn't have success when I got called up with that team because I mean, Lou Pinella didn't let you get relaxed or whatever and kind of build
Right.
your confidence. It was like, I mean, I don't even like thinking about it. But later in my career, I met with Lou on my probably my next to the last year I played, and I was trying to sneak around him in Tampa when he was a manager there, and he goes, "Hey, Ham, get over here," and I'm thinking, oh, "Hey, Lou," and he looked right at me, grabbed both my shoulders, and he goes, "I'm proud of you." He goes, "I've been keeping up with you ever since You left Cincinnati, and I am proud of you." And I'm thinking, I gave him a big hug. I go, "Lou, I needed to hear that from you."
Do you still keep in contact with Lou now?
No, I would love to run him down and have lunch with him. I need to somehow get his contact information and see where he's at, and just tell him just like what I just talked about.
Right.
And I mean, it was hard. I mean, but that's his job. I
Right.
mean, to get 100% out of his players, and he did. But it's no different from my high school coach. I hated my high school coach, but when I look at my career and why I did so good early, I mean, in the minor leagues, it's because of my high school coach.
So let's talk a little bit about, so 1993, you actually left the Cincinnati Reds and you signed with an expansion team that nobody had ever known anything about, called the at that time the Florida Marlins. You were actually on that first expansion team. You guys had guys like Charlie Houghs and Jeff Conine and guys like that. Can you talk about, as a baseball experience, as somebody who played for, 7 different teams, what it's like going from team to team, but more so, what's it like being part of an expansion team where the fans of that city are brand new and learning about the players and the teams and getting used to having Major League Baseball there? Can you kind of talk about that first year in 1993 in Miami or Florida?
Yeah, I loved it because I mean it was almost like you had a you went out into the park and picked up a bunch of guys who wanted to play baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think I had 2.5 years, and other than Charlie Huff, I might have had the second or third highest number of years on that team. So when it was just a bunch of young kids gathered together, I mean, giving it everything we had, and that's really where I built my confidence as a major leaguer, because I lost my first 3 starts, and Marcel Lashman pulls me over to the side and he goes, "Hey, we got you for a reason. We know you can pitch. Get out there and just relax and have fun." And after that, I won 8 games in a row. I was pitcher of the month, and we just had a group of young kids that it was almost kind of like a renegade bunch of ball players that we didn't care who we were playing. We knew we could beat them on any given night. And like the Yankees and the Braves and the top teams, they're like, "Man, we're playing with the Marlins." So you just never knew. I mean, we could get
Right.
blown out, or we could beat the best team, and that's what made it so fun with playing with the Marlins when the first year that they came into existence.
You mentioned you were kind of one of the older players along with Charlie Huff. When you got there, Charlie was in his 40s, and obviously Charlie's very well known as being a knuckleballer, and they're extinct right now in Major League Baseball. Did you did he kind of take you under his wing, and what did being in that, pitchers group, or maybe rotation with Charlie Huff, what did he teach you about baseball and how to pitch?
Well, I mean, to me, Charlie, I don't think he can really teach somebody how to pitch because he's a knuckleball pitcher. He throws 95% knuckleballs, but he really taught us young pitchers on how to just focus, relax, don't I mean do your best to drown out the crowd, and just go out there and have fun. And I mean, and when you struggled, he'd pull you off to the side. He was kind of like a father figure, and I mean, and
Right.
it was in a great way, because there was no yelling. I mean, the manager, that's his job to yell. But when you have a veteran pitcher that's pitched for so many years, like Charlie Huff, hey, he's going to talk to you. He's going to put his arm around you and go, "Hey, I've been where you're at, and here's what I did." And I mean, it was just so beneficial for us young pitchers coming up with the Marlins.
Other than being able to go out there and feel like this ragtag group of guys could beat anybody. What's your kind of overlying memory of that first year in Florida? Because there's only 25 guys or so that can say, "Hey, I was part of the first ever team of on the Florida Marlins." What's your kind of your overwhelming or underlying feeling of that 1993 season when you look back on it?
The thing I loved about it, um, you had you had a brand new group of fans that came to most of the games, and I mean they loved you through win or loss, win or loss. It's kind of like the Cubs fans.
Yeah,
I mean, and when you have fans like that, and you walk out on the field, you can remember faces every day and wherever after the game we go to a sports bar and hang out, shoot pool, go to a pizza joint, shoot pool, and fans would kind of like follow you around, and not like in a bad way, just
right,
kind of like a supporting way.
right.
And and I mean, even to this day, I have Florida Marlin fans that I run into wherever I'm at, and they were like they bring up. I remember that '93 season, man. It was one of the best all around seasons that I've ever experienced because you guys had fun. We helped you. We were there for y'all, and that's just a great uh, memory that I've had, especially with the Florida Marlins throughout my career.
I think it's fair to say that in your career as a pitcher, you kind of had two phases where you kind of maybe struggled as a starting pitcher slash swingman, and then you got moved to a reliever. You had a lot of success when you became a reliever, especially kind of it's almost like your career had two stints, like pre-Atlanta Braves and post-Atlanta Braves. But I want to talk about one more Florida Marlins thing. You were a pretty good hitting pitcher. You hit over 200, and you even hit a pinch hit grand slam as a Florida Marlin. Can you talk about that?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a pitch hit grand slam. I was a starting pitcher. I don't know where
Okay,
that comes from.
okay, okay.
But that gets back to me playing in college and high school. Uh, I mean, I've always been a good hitter. I mean, um, that's why I was surprised when I got drafted as a pitcher. So when
Right.
I go back to being a starting pitcher now, what kind of pitches is a starting pitcher going to see? Fastballs. I
Right.
can hit the fastball,
Mm.
and I remember the time I hit the grand slam. I came up in probably the third or fourth inning, and I hit a grand slam. And this is what kind of puzzled me, and even the reporters afterwards. We're up four to two, and then like in the fifth or sixth inning, he comes out. No, it was in the fifth inning. I had two outs in the fifth inning, and he comes out and pulls me. And I'm thinking, you can't pull me until I give up 4 runs. I mean,
Yeah.
I drove in these 4 runs. Let me give up 4 runs, and I
Right.
ended up not even getting to win that game.
Mm.
And the reporters were like, "What are you doing?" I mean, you gotta reward them somehow. So, but hitting a grand slam and running around the bases is like no other feeling that I've ever had.
Yeah, and I mean, as a pitcher, your pitches that you threw mostly were a changeup, a slider, and a four seam fastball. Which which one of those pitches did you feel most comfortable as like your out pitch? Like if you're ahead on a guy 1-2 or 0-2, whether it's a rookie or a veteran or a big time situation, what pitch are you throwing with two strikes to try and get that third strike?
Well, I mean, the first part of my career, um, I relied heavily on my changeup, and then toward the probably I pitched for 7 years. I was a starting pitcher for 7 years. About the fifth year of being a starter, I learned how to throw a slider, and to me, I mastered the slider and I mastered the changeup. And when you ask any hitter what's the hardest pitch to hit, probably half of them are gonna go, I cannot hit a great slider, a well
Right.
played slider, and a lot of most, I mean, the other half will go, I can't hit a great changeup,
Right.
and I had them both. So um, it depends on. I mean, I'm throwing one of those,
Right.
and it depends on if it's a home run hitter or if it's a slap hitter.
Sure.
Uh, but I relied heavily on staying away from the fastball, letting the hitters know that I can throw my slider and my changeup anytime, and then move. I mean, working the fastball in there periodically, and that's what really what worked for me.
So after you were a member of the Marlins and you had two stints with them, but after your first stint ended in '96, you signed with the Red Sox in '97, and there was a little, I don't know, I guess you could say controversy if you want to call it that. Did they did they sign you with the intent to make you a starter and that didn't happen? I saw a quote in the Yankee magazine in '02 where you'd said it was kind of a ruse to get you to sign. Can you talk about that whole situation?
Well, I mean, I was a starting pitcher, and that's the reason I didn't stay with the Marlins because they wanted me to move me to the bullpen. And at that point, I mean, I've been a starter most of my career. Uh, I felt like it was a demotion and not like that's just
Right.
part of being a pitcher.
Right.
And but I went to the Red Sox. All my incentives were starts, innings pitched, all that. So that told me that they're going to give me every opportunity to lose that my job as a starter. And they never gave me one start. And I went to them. I go, I mean, if you're going to put me in the bullpen and not give me a chance, redo my contract and let me give me some incentives out of the bullpen. And
Right.
they go, no, we're going to keep it as is. I'm thinking, you got to be kidding. So, but halfway during the year, I had a bone spur on my elbow, and the doctor says you can get that done whenever you can if it's bothering you or whatever. And I go, it's really bothering me now. And I just like, man, I'm done. So I had surgery, came back, and I mean, just sat around the rest of the year, and I knew I just that season right there just took the love of baseball out of me. And then my wife went into labor with our second child at 6 months, and she went on bed rest, and I go, done, retired.
Right. But that wasn't actually the end of your career. You were
I thought it was.
you thought it was and that was '98. You came back in '02, and looking at your stats for this interview, do you think 2002 was probably your best year as a pitcher? You had 76 innings and you had a .95 ERA and you had nearly 30 consecutive scoreless outings. Do you think that was your best year as a pitcher in terms of being able to make pitches and your confidence is at the highest point it's ever been, but also at the same time, when you're in a scoreless inning streak like that, do you feel like anything you throw up there, a guy's going to swing at and you're going to get him out?
Well, it got to the point. I mean, my first my first outing, I gave up a 3-run homer, and I was a I just came off not pitching. I mean, not even pitching in baseball for 2.5 years, and then coming back and pitching, and now I just made the Atlanta Braves team, and the Bobby Cox like, hey, we're gonna give you a shot. You're our kind of like our 12th. We need 12 pitchers for the first part of the season. I mean, 12 pitchers and more relievers than starters. And I gave up a 3-run homer to start the season. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So I'm driving home to I had my house in Wadowee, and I just said, God, I got to pitch every game like it's going to be my last. And then, I mean, the rest is history. But to me, what what makes me a successful relief pitcher? I'll go in for one inning, and I mean, hitters don't like facing a pitcher like Greg Maddux or somebody that you don't know what they're going to throw.
Right.
I mean, like today's generation, 90%, 95% fastballs. I throw about 10% fastballs, 40% changeups, 40%
30%
sliders.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm throwing you everything I got. And I just come in from a guy who's throwing 95 and I'm throwing 85 and my changeup's 65. I mean, and it's just a difficult
It's a big change of
mindset
pace
for a
for the
hitter.
hitter. It's keeping him off guard. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did a great job. Leo Mazzoni was a great coach on teaching me really to how to set up my fastball. And I mean, and the rest is history, man.
Did you feel like as a major leaguer that was the season where everything just like obviously you gave up the 3-run homer your first time out, but as you kind of got into that season and as it played out, do you feel like that's the season where everything just kind of clicked for you? Like you said, you had your
Yeah,
changeup
I mean,
working, your slider. Like, I mean, it's not easy to throw almost 30 consecutive scoreless innings, let alone in the major leagues.
I know, I know. I mean, I look back. I other than if I would have had it pitched a .95 ERA with the New York Yankees, that
Yeah.
might have been better. But
Right.
I live in Alabama, and I do a lot of stuff with the Braves, and even fans today, they're like, we remember that .95, and I'm thinking, that's priceless. So,
Right.
but when I look back at that year, that was the first year that John Smoltz was a closer, and having his presence in the bullpen, and it's almost like you didn't want to, as a setup guy, you didn't want to blow the lead for John Smoltz.
Right.
And I mean, but like I said, he was having his presence in the bullpen. I mean, when you look at our bullpen, and I mean, when you hear people going, y'all's Braves bullpen ranks up there with the best bullpens of all time. And you look at our bullpen standing there, and you're going to go, who is that? Other than Smoltz.
Right.
I mean, just a bunch of misfits that we were thrown together,
Yeah.
and we just clicked. We meshed together. We love sitting around the bullpen and just having fun, and having our captain Smoltz as the guy that we kept everybody together,
Sure.
and I mean, it was just awesome.
You actually got to achieve something that not a lot of players get to achieve. In 2003, you were with the Yankees, and ironically enough, you got all the way to the World Series and got to face your former team, the Florida Marlins. Can you talk about, first of all, talk about what it was like getting to the World Series? Obviously, 2003 was a pretty good year for you guys as the Yankees, but talk about what it was like to get to the World Series and then to face your former team in the World Series. That had to be pretty cool.
Oh, it was awesome, and getting to the World Series. I mean, if you could have sat and went to every Red Sox and Yankees game, I mean, I mean, I mean, talking about electric,
Yeah.
and the thing I talk about it the most is when Pedro Martinez was pitching Game 7,
Mhm.
and going into the 6th inning. I mean, it was over. I mean,
Mhm.
we couldn't even touch him. I looked over. Me and Gabe White were sitting on the wall, and I looked over to him. I go, "Hey, and I with a sweat, I was kind of laughing. I go, "Are you going to clean out your locker tonight, or are you going to come back tomorrow?" I go, "Because it was over."
Yeah.
And when they left him in, and we tied the score, and then when Boone hit that home run, I'm thinking, this is by far. I know you want to win the World Series and the excitement, but the excitement wouldn't have been any better than that right there. I mean, the place went crazy,
It had to have felt almost like a surreal moment. Like this isn't really happening, given that it's Yankee Stadium, it's the Red Sox, it's Pedro Martinez. Like you said, you guys couldn't touch him the first 6 innings. Like when Boone hit that, like that had to be such a surreal moment.
Oh my goodness! I mean, I got chill bumps just right now. This is like 23 years ago. I mean, just
Yeah.
seeing that ball go, I'm thinking. But when we made it to the World Series and just going to the Marlins, I mean, it there was no nervous thing about. I mean, I wish they would have pitched me more because I mean that was my home.
Hmm.
I mean, I was there for almost 5 years,
Right.
and me walking around the stadium there, and everybody's like, hey, and I mean, but that's what made it such a. I mean, not like a nervous time pitching the World Series. It was just kind of like just another game.
Absolutely. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about about after baseball. You have what's called the Chris Hammond Youth Foundation. Can you talk to me and our viewers about what that is and how that got started?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's how God works. Um, I grew up in a bigger city in Birmingham, and I lived. I mean, we had everything. I mean, we had fields everywhere. I mean, kids didn't go without anywhere I looked. And then when I played with the Marlins, we were looking for a good piece of property. I love to hunt. I love to fish, and we found 240 acres in Wedowee, Alabama. And I'm thinking, where in the world is Wedowee? I mean, I grew up in Alabama, and
Sure.
that's how small it was. And when we moved there, I mean, my son was 4. He started playing t-ball, and the coach was like, "Hey, Mr. Hammond, you have a big yard?" And I'm thinking, I got a really big yard. And he goes, "Do you think we could practice on it?" I go, I don't think we could practice on it, but why?" And he goes, "Well, we have this one little field right here, and we got 15 teams that share it." And I go, "This is all you got?" And I'm thinking, "Oh man!" And then through that through that year right there, I'm thinking, "Man, this is terrible." And then me and my wife started talking, and we're like, "We need to start a foundation to help out kids in rural areas." And so we started Chris Hammond Youth Foundation. We helped with Dowie built with. I mean, they didn't have a high school field to play on, and the girls softball didn't have a field to play on. So we helped them build those two fields, and I mean it electric. I mean the whole community, the whole surrounding areas were like, "Holy cow! Look at this field!" And I mean from then on, I mean they were going to the state championship. I mean, and making the playoffs, and there was excitement. And if you go there now, you're like, "Oh my God, this is great!" So that's what we started doing, helping underprivileged in rural areas. I mean, get excited about sports. I mean,
Absolutely.
and that's I mean to me, I mean when kids play sports, I don't care what sport it is. If they play in high school, minimum, they're going to learn so much about life, preparing
Absolutely.
for the workforce, and that's what we do. I mean, if anybody wants to help our cause, I mean, I go out and find people that need our help. I don't have a group that I send out. I do it, and the reason is I want to sit with the coach or the just like I went to a little parks and recreation in inner city Birmingham, and I talked to the guy there about what his mission was, and just hearing his heart, I'm thinking, oh, we need more people like that. And I mean, and I beg people. I mean, if you want to give a little bit. If you can't give a lot, give a little bit. We have a lot of people giving a little bit. We don't have to rely on this group over here to give a lot.
Right.
So, so my efforts in telling you guys, I mean, my foundation is about me. I mean, I go out and I mean, we have a golf tournament coming up in a couple months, and that's our big fundraiser. But and we're going to have our auction online. So if anybody wants to go on and bid on a lot of stuff, I mean, we got a lot of memorabilia and trips and whatever. But the bottom line is, I mean, there's underprivileged kids everywhere, and when we can come in and give them this many $1,000s for the next 4 years, and they're going, "Are you serious?" And it just takes the pressure off of fundraising, because
Right.
when you're trying to fundraise in rural in underprivileged areas, there's not much fundraising left.
Yeah.
So that's what I get joy in my days after retirement.
Can you talk to me a little bit about both as a player and post career, kind of with your foundation? What role has faith played in that?
Do what?
What role has faith played for you as both a player and in your foundation?
Oh yeah, yeah. When I first started my foundation, I mean, I wanted to raise millions of dollars. And I mean, and I was like hitting the road, talking to this business and this one, and then I remember opening my Bible up one morning, and when I was praying, and I heard God say, "Where do I fit in all this?" And I kind of stepped back and I go, I mean, I got it, because I was running ahead of the horse, and then and I started backing up, and I go, it's not about how much money we can raise, it's about taking God with me, and sitting down with this group of kids and telling them what Christ has done in my life, and I'm doing all this to be the hands, feet, and voice of Christ to a lost and dying world. And that's what made it so much more enjoyable. It's not about raising money and helping build this field, or buy uniforms for this team, or gloves and bats for this team. Where's the message? And that's where it became real, and so, I mean, powerful, to help change people's lives, bottom line. But to see the excitement that they take Christ with them out on the field, or into life.
I don't know how much you still follow Major League Baseball today, but I ask this question to all my guests that come on the show. If you were the commissioner of Major League Baseball today and you could change one rule about the game, what rule would you change and why?
Gosh, just one.
Just one.
Um,
As a pitcher, I thought you would say the pitch clock immediately, or is that
I
something that
know,
you?
I know, and to me, I wouldn't change. I mean, I would change the pitch clock. I but I would just add seconds to it. I think it's
Okay.
too. I mean, I would the first the first 5 innings, it could be 30 seconds,
Okay.
and then after sixth inning on, add another 5 seconds,
Sure.
or even or 7 seconds or something. I just feel
Sure.
like right now you're rushing the pitcher, and everybody's like, well, they need to hurry it up. I'm thinking, you stand out on that mound.
Right.
You try to get your job is to get that guy out. I mean, you barely have time to think,
Right.
and now and especially with a guy like me who throws a lot of pitches, like different pitches other than fastball. I mean, and that's just what I would do different. I would add 5 to 7 seconds the first 5 innings, and then a 5 to 7 seconds the last 4 innings.
How do you feel about the Manfred runner? Which I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically, if the game's tied going into extra innings, the player who made the last out on the opposing team starts on second base. How do you feel about that in terms of helping it or hindering it to end the game?
that is the biggest crock of bull crap I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this is thinking Major League Baseball. You can do
Right,
that kind of stuff in minor leagues, but
right,
major leagues. I mean, you're playing for the World Series. You ain't
right,
playing for some Bush League championship in slow pitch softball.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean,
No.
play. Hey, and if it goes like, hey, there's games that been gone 22 innings. Now you gotta step back as a pitching coach or manager and going, now we're going to see who's the best team.
Right,
I mean, it's just that's baseball.
right.
You
Yeah.
don't put somebody on second base.
No, for the record, I agree with you. I don't like the Manfred runner, and I think it's good that they decided not to do it in the postseason. As of now, it's only in the regular season because you wouldn't want, like you said, you're playing for the World Series. I don't want to watch an ALCS or an NLCS and have the team that goes to the World Series be decided by a ghost runner at second base.
But that's
Um,
just, I mean, you saying that is we're baseball doing that, not allowing it in the playoffs. You shouldn't allow it. If you're not going to allow it in the playoffs, you shouldn't allow it during the season.
right. I like to end with a little word association and maybe a story. I'm a Twins fan, as you can, I don't know if you can tell, but you pitched a little bit in the American League, 97, 03, 04. Do you have a story about either playing with the Twins or or not playing with the Twins, but playing against the Twins that you could share with me?
I mean, whenever I think of, it's not even like baseball related.
Sure.
Uh, Whenever I think of playing against the Twins there, uh, I remember sitting in the bullpen and the ball boy, and I mean every few minutes he would get out, pour some hot sauce on his finger, and lick it. And after a while, I'm thinking, what are you doing? He goes, you've never read that? It's the best way to lose weight. And I'm like, it's just one of those corny stories, but
Right.
we had that relationship. Every time I'd come, he'd be sitting right there, and he'd shake his little bottle of Tabasco sauce.
I
That's
haven't
some of
heard that. I haven't heard that. Maybe I'll have to give that a try. Um, let's end with a little word association. I'm going to give you a player or a coach, and you just kind of give me a name or give me a word or a sentence about them, whether you played with them or not. Let's start with your Reds tenure. Let's start with Barry Larkin.
oh man, awesome. I mean, great team player. Even when I see him today, I mean, he brings a smile to my face.
Rob Dibble.
Dibble, I mean, when you say nasty boy, he that was his picture.
Mhm.
But away from the game, great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, great guy. But you want him on your team, especially being coming in at the last part of the game.
We talked about him earlier, but Charlie Houghs.
Just a, I mean, father figure as a player, and that's what's missing in today's generation. Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, just a great guy. Great. He did a lot for my career.
You were with them in 2005, and he had already retired at that point. But Tony Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn, I mean, he when he's the type hitter that you're not really worried about him hitting a home run. I mean, it's almost like when I pitched to Tony Gwynn, I could always picture him on first base hitting a line drive right over the infield.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's probably the only hitter that Greg Maddux ever talked about.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. When you
amazing.
Lou Pinella. You talked about Lou earlier. Sentence or words about Lou Pinella. I swear,
Um,
I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I want you, Lou
no, no,
Pinella.
no. I mean, hey, whatever I say, Lou can go. That's right.
Yeah,
But um, I can't find words to describe Lou, just because. I mean, I was just so disappointed
right,
at how he didn't put his arm around younger pitchers and kind of go, "Come on,"
right.
kind of like Marcel Latchman did, kind of like Larry Rothschild did, Leo Mazzoni. Um, but what made it all better when Lou grabbed my shoulders and says, "I'm proud of you."
Bobby Cox.
Um, the best ever father figure to the max. I mean, me, Smoltz, Glavin, and Maddox could all be in the same room, and he would treat us all the same.
The captain, Derek Jeter.
The captain of baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah, he when they picked him to be captain of baseball, I'm thinking, you got that right. I mean, and here's a great Derek Jeter story. When my two boys were 4 and 6, and when we're winning, our kids come in the clubhouse, and I'm the first person in the shower because my family's waiting on me. I come out of the shower, and I'm thinking, where are my boys? One of them is sitting in Jason Giambi's locker, and my younger son is sitting in Derek Jeter's locker. I'm thinking, I go, hey, get over here. And as soon as I said that, here comes Jeter. Hey, little buddy. And from that day forward, he would shoot right to Derek Jeter's locker. He didn't know who Derek Jeter was. He would pick him up on his shoulder, take him into the training room, talk to him the whole time. And I'm thinking, what? Well, hey, here's a one time I got ready. My oldest son was gone. We right there. We started going out. We're walking out of the old Yankee Stadium into the parking lot, and I just figured everybody was there. And all I hear was, "Hey, Ham," and it's Jeter running with my son. I think you forgot somebody. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? That's Derek Jeter. I mean, he was the captain of baseball. He was the captain of New York. I mean, it's just he was amazing.
was he the best player you ever played with?
Um,
If not, who was?
best player. I mean, when you to me, probably the two best players that I played with that just knew what to do to win. And when I look back, Chipper Jones and probably Jeter.
Okay.
I mean, I love when Jeter went to the plate. I love when Jeter was in the field. I loved when Chipper was at the plate. I love when Chipper was in the field. And when the games that he didn't play, it just and both of them, it it just it took away from the motivation of our team.
Two totally different players there. That's interesting too. You have a guy, you have Chipper who's kind of a power slap hitter, and then you've got Jeter who's kind of more of a line drive singles hit, extra base hitter. So, um, when you as a pitcher, who were the toughest players for you to get out? Like who just like you'd throw that 75-mile-an-hour changeup up there and they would hit it into left field. Like who's the guy that you just did not want to see coming to the plate because you knew he was going to get a hit?
Number one, Barry Bonds. When I threw ball four, I was like, yes. And number two, Reggie Sanders.
Okay,
I
okay.
think Reggie hit like 380 off of me. I mean, crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I threw everything I had at him, you know, and that don't happen much. I mean, I don't think anybody really owns me like those two.
You, I want to finish up here. You've given me more time than we had planned on, and I really greatly appreciate it. I would be remiss if I didn't ask somebody who works in and around the Braves organization. You have to give me your World Series predictions.
I'm telling you right now,
Are the Braves going to be the first team to repeat in 20 some years?
hey, hey, if this team does not win the World Series, that'd be the biggest shock. That just going through their lineup, it's not like one guy's going to do it.
Right.
The the whole
The
team does.
lineup is so deep, so deep.
Holy cow! I
Yeah.
mean, I'd be
Well,
shocked that I don't think there's a team out there that can beat the Braves to 4 games in a series.
I personally I want to see the Braves and the Phillies in the NLCS. I want to see that series play out for 7 games. I want to see Ronald Acuna and Bryce Harper just going at it for 7 games. Speaking of Acuna, real quick, when you were playing, did you ever like obviously Barry Bonds had done 40-40. Could you ever even contemplate a player doing 40-70 in a season?
Well, I mean, no, I've argued with a lot of people about what he's done, and that's a great feat. But when you throw in the pitchers can only throw over twice, and you have
Right.
to rush the pitcher, and the
Right.
bases are bigger. I mean,
Yeah.
you should start that stat this year.
Right.
I mean, whatever's happened in the past is I mean, that won't. I mean,
Right.
that's in the past. But with the stolen bases and the way, like I said, when you handicap the pitcher, you can only throw over twice because I mean, there's a lot of times guys. I mean, strategy.
Right.
I mean, throwing over 4 times back in the past, and it. I mean, Ricky Henderson stealing all those bases where when pitchers could throw over as many times as they want. I mean, that was a feat. But I'm not going to take away the seasons that he's had. I mean, he's amazing. I mean, he's one of my favorite players to watch. And when he first started, I didn't want to watch him. And he was like hot dog whatever, and
Right.
he dug himself. But
Right.
now being on that Braves team, and how I mean, I don't see a hot dog on the team. I see a bunch of guys who have their confidence as high as they can get, and I feel sorry for anybody in the playoffs that's going to play him.
The
And he
the last
starts having him lead off.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean 40 home runs from the leadoff spot. That's
Yeah,
impressive. That's really impressive.
impressive. I
And,
mean, and like I said, he's having fun. He's not.
yeah.
He, he don't have to answer to why 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 are you so flashy?
Yeah. Right.
He's going out there and having fun and
Yeah.
just taking names.
That kind of brings me into my last point. I always my biggest gripe with baseball personally is I think baseball has I think part of the reason baseball's not growing as a game as much as it should or could is because it's got a marketing problem. Like it's trying to hinder players like Acuna and guys like that who are trying to be themselves, who are from other countries and maybe more flashy. Like baseball almost seems like it's trying to like it has a marketing problem. Like other than Mike Trout, you don't see a lot of baseball players in national commercials or getting that spotlight. Do you think baseball has a marketing problem where it almost seems like it doesn't want to promote its biggest players?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, I can see where you're going, and it's almost like when I played. I mean, we made great money, and if you had an opportunity to make another $1 million by doing this, or another, and you got to do this, and a lot of guys were like, man, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Right.
And it's only $1 million, and I already make $17 million. I
Right.
mean, so to me, the salaries that they're already paying the guys, it kind of limits. I mean, I don't want to have to do all that stuff. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, other than taking a picture and putting it on the cover of a magazine or a newspaper, they're all about that. But
Right.
going somewhere and have to rehearse a line or do a commercial, there's not a lot of guys out there that feel comfortable about doing that.
I think that's a great way to end. Chris, I cannot thank you enough for all the time you gave me today. Ladies and gentlemen, former Major Leaguer Chris Hammond. Chris, let them know where they can find out information about your youth foundation. What's the website? How can they contact you?
They can go on my website, chrishammondyouthfoundation.com, and or they can contact me 256-276-9942. And I mean, I love grouping with people who have a generous heart, and I do all the legwork. I hit the I'm around a lot of people who know a lot of people that know people who need help, and the bigger the group we have, the more people we can help.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot thank him enough. Former Major League pitcher and noted home run hitter, Chris Hammond. Chris, thank you very much for being on the show. I had a great time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I did too. Thanks for inviting me. Y'all
No
take care.
problem. Yep, you as well. Thank you.